The last resort. High Elder Vix's tentacles curled in distress as she watched another star system vanish from the galactic map. The crystalline growths that had consumed it continued their inexorable spread across the sector, leaving only emptiness in their wake. In the emergency chamber of the Galactic Concordat, representatives from 1,000 peaceful worlds watched in horrified silence. The crystalline convergence has claimed its 15th system, announced Strategic Coordinator Zenra, his bioluminescent patches dimming with each word. Our most advanced weaponry simply gets absorbed into their lattice structure. They learn, they adapt, and they grow stronger. At current expansion rates, they will reach the core worlds within 6 standard cycles. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of distress signals, the biochemical markers of fear and despair flooding the specialized environmental systems. The assembled species, each evolved from worlds of gentle beauty and cosmic harmony, had never faced an existential threat of this magnitude. Vix raised all 4 of her primary appendages, invoking ancient protocols of emergency authority. Fellow members of the Concordat, we must consider the forbidden option. The chamber fell silent. Even the ambient light seemed to dim. You cannot mean. Zenra's voice trailed off, his crystalline exoskeleton darkening with shock. I do, Vix continued. The preservation archives, specifically the sealed records of Survey Mission 47,291. The mention of that particular mission caused several delegates to emit involuntary stress spores. Survey Mission 47,291 was infamous among xenorchaeologists, the mission that discovered the Deathworld, the planet that should not exist. Earth. Vix activated the ancient holographic records. A blue-green world materialized in the center of the chamber, wrapped in swirling white clouds and surrounded by an unprecedented amount of orbital debris, the remnants of their primitive attempts at space travel. 300 cycles ago, our survey teams discovered this anomaly, a species that evolved on a world that by all rights should have rendered life impossible. Extreme temperature variations, constant geological upheaval, atmospheric oxygen levels that would be considered toxic on any civilized world. And yet, the hologram shifted to show various scenes from Earth, beings walking upright despite crushing gravity, creatures healing from injuries that would be fatal to any rational species, individuals voluntarily ingesting caustic substances for pleasure. They call themselves humans, Vix continued. When we discovered them, they were deemed too dangerous to contact. Their bodies are composed of materials we consider weapons grade. Their minds are capable of processing trauma that would shatter our psyches. They routinely survive conditions that our medical eye classifies as unsurvivable. You cannot seriously suggest, began one of the elder delegates, their photoreceptors flickering with alarm. I can, and I do, Vix interrupted. The crystalline convergence adapts to everything we throw at it because we think like civilized beings. We need creatures that evolved in chaos, beings whose very existence defies rational physics. We need humans. Security Minister Kethra, their crystalline form vibrating with concern, spoke up. But the quarantine protocols will doom us all if we maintain them, Vix finished. I've been secretly monitoring their progress. In the 300 cycles since quarantine, they've not only survived but thrived. They've developed fusion power, begun terraforming their moon, and are exploring their solar system, all while under quarantine, all while fighting among themselves, all while surviving conditions that would kill any of us instantly. The hologram shifted to show human military exercises. The assembled delegates watched in horror as humans deliberately jumped from high altitudes, swam in liquid water, and endured environmental extremes for what appeared to be recreational purposes. They are exactly what we need, Vix declared. A species that turns survival into an art form. Beings who see the impossible as a challenge rather than a barrier. The crystalline convergence adapts to logical approaches. But humans defy logic itself. A deep silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Contact with humans would change everything. Their volatile nature, their predatory instincts, their incomprehensible resilience, all of it would be unleashed upon the galaxy. But as another star system winked out on the galactic map, the choice became clear. "I call for an emergency vote," Vix announced, "to break the quarantine protocols and seek humanity's help in our fight against the crystalline convergence, to save our civilization by turning to those we once feared." One by one, the delegates indicated their agreement, their various biological signals mixing into a symphony of desperate hope. "Prepare the first contact team," Vix ordered. "And may whatever forces humans believe in have mercy on us all, because we're about to unleash something even more terrifying than the convergence itself." As the emergency session adjourned, Vix watched the hologram of Earth spinning peacefully in space. Soon, the galaxy would remember why death worlds were quarantined. And perhaps, if they were fortunate, that same terrible power would be their salvation. First Contact Radix. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the window of Lunar Command, watching Earth rise over the crater-marked horizon when the impossible happened. A ship appeared. Not the usual supply vessels or colonial transports, but something that defied human engineering. It shimmered like liquid mercury, its hull flowing and shifting as if alive. "Multiple unknown contacts detected," announced the AI defense system. "Configuration unknown. Technology signature impossible." Chen was already moving. "Battle stations, all defense grids online. Get me Earth Command." But before she could reach her station, every screen in the facility lit up with a transmission. The image that appeared caused several officers to step back instinctively. A being that seemed to be made of translucent tissues and flowing tentacles looked out at them, its body emanating soft bioluminescence. "People of Earth," the creature spoke in perfect English, its voice somehow both musical and desperate. "I am High Elder Vix of the Galactic Concordat. We come seeking your help." Chen's training kicked in. First contact protocols have been theorized but never tested. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Force Lunar Command. State your intentions." "We," the alien seemed to struggle with the words. "We owe you an apology. 300 of your years ago, our civilization discovered Earth. We were afraid. Your species survived conditions we thought impossible. Your bodies contain acids that could dissolve our hulls. Your minds processed trauma that would shatter our psyches. We quarantined your world." The command center fell silent. Humanity had wondered why they'd never encountered alien life despite their advances into space. Now they knew. They'd been deliberately isolated. "And now you need our help." Chen's voice carried a sharp edge. "Why should we trust you?" The alien's form rippled, and the image shifted to show something that made Chen's blood run cold. A crystalline structure, beautiful but terrifying, consuming an entire star system. "Because this is spreading across our galaxy. The crystalline convergence. It adapts to everything we throw at it. Our weapons are useless. Our tactics fail. We need those who evolved on a death world." "A death world," Chen's second-in-command whispered. "Your Earth," Vix explained. "A planet of such extreme conditions that by our standards, life should be impossible. Extreme temperature variations, crushing gravity, toxic oxygen levels, constant geological upheaval. Yet you not only survived, you thrived." The alien's form shifted again, displaying what appeared to be scientific readings. "Your bodies can repair damage that would be fatal to us. Your muscles grow stronger when strained. You can survive radiation doses that would kill our hardiest species. You seek out danger for recreation. You voluntarily consume caustic substances for pleasure." "Those aren't bugs," Chen said, beginning to understand. "They're features. Everything you feared about us is exactly what we need." Vix finished. "The convergence adapts to logical approaches. But you defy logic itself. Your species looks at the impossible and sees a challenge. You turned survival into an art form. Chen studied the alien carefully. Years of command experience had taught her to read people, and while this being wasn't human, the desperation was clear. You're terrified of us. Yes, Vix admitted without hesitation. Your species terrifies us more than any other discovery in our history. And right now, that terror is our last hope. The command center erupted in hurried discussions. Centuries of isolation suddenly explained. First contact happening not with peaceful exploration, but a desperate plea for help. And humanity, feared across the galaxy for the very traits that had allowed them to survive. Chen made a decision. I need to contact Earth's Unified Council. But first, tell me everything about this crystalline convergence. If you want humanity's help, we need to know what we're fighting. The convergence. Vix began, but paused as warning signals flashed across their ship. It's happening faster than we predicted. A system just fell in the Orient sector. When your leaders are ready, we have prepared detailed briefings. But know this, we're asking you to face something that has defeated 1,000 peaceful civilizations. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Peaceful civilizations, yes. But we're not peaceful. We're human. And if there's one thing humans know how to do, it's fight impossible odds. As she gave orders to contact Earth's leaders, Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity had spent centuries looking to the stars, wondering if they were alone. Now they learned they weren't just not alone. They were the galaxy's last, best hope. The monsters under the bed called forth to fight an even greater terror. Prepare briefing room 1, she ordered. And someone get me coffee. I have a feeling this is going to be a long day. The alien delegation visibly recoiled at the mention of the caustic beverage, and Chen realized that humanity's integration into galactic society was going to be interesting, to say the least. The human factor. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the observation deck of the hybrid warship Prometheus, watching the crystalline convergence through specially designed shields. The alien metal of the ship had been reinforced with human engineering, creating something entirely new, just like the crew that operated it. They're beautiful, she muttered, studying the fractal patterns of the crystal entities as they consumed an abandoned research station. Terrifyingly beautiful. Behind her, strategic coordinator Zenra's crystalline form vibrated with anxiety. Beautiful. They've consumed 12 more systems since we contacted Earth. How can you see beauty in such horror? Maya turned to face the alien, her dark eyes reflecting the ethereal glow of the crystals. Understanding your enemy is the first step to defeating them. These aren't just mindless crystals. They're following patterns. Complex, but patterns nonetheless. We've studied them for cycles, Zenra protested. Our best minds couldn't find any weakness. Your best minds evolved on worlds where survival was guaranteed, Maya said, pulling up holographic data streams. Humans evolved by looking for patterns in chaos. It's how we survived predators, seasons, natural disasters. Look here, the crystalline growth isn't random. It's following rules, like a computer program. The ship's intercom crackled. Dr. Puddle to bridge. The test is ready. Maya grabbed her tablet and headed for the bridge, Zenra floating behind her. The bridge of the Prometheus was a study in contrasts. Sleek alien technology merged with sturdy human engineering. Captain James Rodriguez stood at the center, his dark uniform a stark contrast to the iridescent alien crew members. Status report, Rodriguez commanded. Test package ready, Lieutenant Sarah Wong reported from her station. Though I still think this is crazy. Crazy is what we do best, Rodriguez smiled. Dr. Patel, you're sure about this? Maya nodded, pulling up her simulations. The convergence adapts to energy weapons by absorbing and redirecting the energy. It counters kinetic weapons by analyzing and matching impact frequencies. But there's one thing it's never encountered: good old-fashioned human chaos. She gestured to the screen showing their weapon, a massive container filled with what looked like garbage. Literally garbage. Metal scraps of different compositions, sizes, and shapes, all magnetized and spinning at different frequencies. The ultimate evolution of ancient human anti-missile chaff, Maya explained to the bewildered alien crew. Each piece is moving at a different speed, made of different materials, creating multiple overlapping resonance patterns. The convergence can't adapt because there's no single pattern to adapt to. You want to fight a galaxy-consuming threat with trash. Zenra's voice carried both horror and fascination. Organized chaos, Maya corrected. Something only a species that evolved in chaos could think of. Captain. Rodriguez nodded. Launch the package. The container burst open, releasing a cloud of spinning, tumbling debris toward the crystalline formation. The aliens watched in amazement as the chaotic cloud hit the crystal structure. Where before the crystals had simply absorbed or deflected attacks, now they began to crack and splinter, unable to compensate for the thousands of different impact frequencies and material compositions. "It's working," Wang exclaimed. "The crystal structure is destabilizing." But their celebration was premature. The damaged section of the convergence suddenly shifted, growing new formations that began capturing and incorporating the debris. "Impossible," Maya whispered. "They're learning faster than we predicted." "Fall back," Rodriguez ordered as crystal spikes began shooting toward the ship. "Get us out of range." As the Prometheus retreated, Maya stared at her data readings. They didn't just adapt, they improved. "They're using our own chaos against us now." "Then we failed," Zenra said, their crystalline form dimming. "No." Maya's eyes lit up with that uniquely human look, the one that made their alien allies nervous. "We proved something crucial. They can learn, yes, but they have to learn. They're not invincible. They're just very, very good at adapting. And if they have to learn, they can be surprised." Rodriguez finished, understanding dawning. "And no one's better at surprising people than humans." Maya nodded, her fingers flying over her tablet. "We need to think bigger, more chaotic. They adapted to our random debris. Fine. Let's show them what happens when humans really decide to get creative." "What are you suggesting?" Zenray asked, dreading the answer. Maya looked up, a fierce grin on her face. "We're going to need every piece of junk in the solar system, some antimatter, and about 1,000 volunteers who are really, really good at thinking outside the box." The alien crew members exchanged worried looks. They were learning that when humans smiled like that, something impossible, and usually terrifying, was about to happen. "Send word to Earth," Rodriguez ordered. "Tell them to start Operation Pandemonium. It's time to show the convergence why Deathworlders are the most dangerous beings in the galaxy." As the Prometheus jumped to safety, Maya kept her eyes on the crystal formation, now incorporating their failed weapon. "You learned fast," she muttered. "But let's see how you handle human ingenuity at its finest." Breaking point. The war room of the Prometheus hummed with tension as holographic displays showed the greatest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 5,000 ships of mixed human and alien design surrounded what had once been the Arcturus system. At the center of the fleet, an impossibly large construct floated in space, Operation Pandemonium's masterpiece. "They called us primitive," Captain Rodriguez said softly, watching the final preparations. "Now look at us, about to attempt the craziest feat of engineering in galactic history." High Elder Vix's tentacles twisted nervously. "Are you certain about this plan?" "It seems insane," Dr. Maya Patel finished, not looking up from her calculations. "That's the point. The convergence adapts to logical approaches. So we're going to hit it with something so illogical it defies comprehension." The construct at the fleet's center was humanity's answer to an impossible enemy. A massive sphere composed of layered electromagnetic fields, quantum-entangled particles, and what humans called everything but the kitchen sink. Though several engineers had actually insisted on including a few kitchen sinks, just for luck. "Final check," Maya announced. "Lieutenant Wang. Status of the gravity wells. Synchronized and ready. Wong reported from her station. Though I still can't believe we're actually doing this. The plan was audacious even by human standards. They would use the construct to create a localized space-time distortion, essentially turning a portion of space itself into a weapon. The aliens had called it impossible. The humans had called it Tuesday. "Convergence vessels approaching," announced the sensor officer. "Multiple crystal formations, larger than anything we've seen before." The main screen showed the enemy, massive crystalline structures that seemed to bend light itself, beautiful and deadly. They had adapted to every weapon, every tactic thrown at them. But they had never faced anything like this. "All ships, maintain formation," Rodriguez ordered. "Remember, when this thing goes off, you need to be exactly 47.3 kilometers away. Any closer, and you'll be caught in the effect. Any further, and you won't be protected from the backlash." "The precision required is impossible," Zenra protested. "No fleet could maintain such exact positioning under combat conditions." "Watch us," Rodriguez smiled. "Humans have been doing the impossible since we learned to walk upright." "Maya, start the sequence." Dr. Patel's fingers danced across her console. The construct began to pulse with energy, its layered fields spinning in impossible patterns. Initial field generation stable. Beginning quantum entanglement cascade. The crystal ships approached, their formations shifting and adapting as they analyzed the new threat. But for once, they seemed hesitant, unable to categorize what they were facing. "They're trying to understand it," Maya said with satisfaction. "But they can't, because it doesn't make sense. You can't adapt to chaos if the chaos keeps changing." The construct's energy readings began to spike. Warning alarms blared across the fleet as space itself seemed to shudder. "All ships, hold position," Rodriguez commanded. "Trust your nav computers. We calculated this down to the quantum level." The crystal ships launched their first attack, beams of coherent energy that had shattered previous defenses. But the construct's chaotic fields scattered them in impossible directions. The convergence tried to adapt, shifting their attack patterns, but there was nothing stable to adapt to. "Energy levels reaching critical," Maya reported. "Quantum entanglement at maximum. Initiating final sequence." The construct's outer layer began to dissolve, its component particles scattered across space-time. The inner layers followed, each dissolution adding to the growing distortion. "By all known physics, this shouldn't be working," Zenray observed, their crystalline form vibrating with both fear and fascination. "Known physics," Rodriguez grinned. "Humans have a bad habit of rewriting those when they get in our way." The crystal ships began to break formation, seemingly sensing the danger. But it was too late. The construct reached critical mass, and space itself seemed to hiccup. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. The distortion field expanded in impossible geometries, catching the nearest crystal ships in its effect. Where it touched them, space twisted and folded, subjecting the crystalline structures to forces that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "It's working," Maya exclaimed. "The crystal lattices can't adapt because the forces aren't constant in any dimension." The fleet watched in awe as the mighty crystal ships began to shatter, their perfectly ordered structures unable to cope with space itself becoming their enemy. But even as they celebrated, Maya's expression turned to horror. "Captain, the field's expansion rate is accelerating." "The calculations, something's wrong." The distortion was growing faster than predicted, its edges beginning to ripple with uncontrolled energy. Ships at the edge of the formation reported their position holds failing. "The convergence," Maya realized. "They're not just breaking. They're releasing their stored energy into the field. It's creating a feedback loop." "All ships, emergency jump," Rodriguez ordered. "Get clear of the system. Now." As the fleet began emergency maneuvers, the distortion field continued to grow, consuming everything in its path. The Prometheus shuddered as its engines strained against the growing gravitational forces. "We did it," Maya said softly, watching the crystal ships disintegrate. "But at what cost?" We'll find out soon enough, Rodriguez replied grimly. Because whatever happens next, we just changed the rules of this war. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's adapting to new rules. The Prometheus made its jump just as the distortion field reached critical mass, leaving behind a system that would never be the same, and a galaxy that was learning just how far humans would go to survive. Evolution's children. The observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station was crowded with both human and alien leaders as they watched the tactical displays. The aftermath of Operation Pandemonium had changed everything. Where the Arcturus system had once been, a massive distortion in space-time, now pulsed like a cosmic heartbeat, sending ripples across nearby systems. The good news, Dr. Maya Patel reported, her voice heavy with exhaustion, is that we proved the crystalline convergence can be beaten. The bad news is that they're learning faster than ever. The displays showed the remaining crystal ships evolving in real time, their structures becoming increasingly complex. They were no longer just adapting to attacks. They were anticipating them. They're displaying signs of actual intelligence now, High Elder Vix observed, her tentacles writhing with concern. Not just reactive adaptation, but genuine problem-solving. That's because we pushed them to evolve, Maya replied. Everything we've thrown at them has forced them to become smarter, more adaptable. We're literally watching accelerated evolution in action. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his uniform bearing the scars of recent battles. Then we've made them stronger, but that might be exactly what we needed to do. The assembled leaders turned to him in surprise. Even Maya looked puzzled. Think about it, Rodriguez continued. What makes humans different from every other species in the galaxy? We didn't just evolve, we evolved under pressure. Every threat, every disaster, every challenge made us stronger. And now, we've done the same to them. Maya finished, her eyes widening with understanding. They're not just adapting anymore. They're becoming something new. The tactical displays suddenly flared with activity. The crystal ships were moving, but not to attack. They were forming into a new configuration, one that pulsed with complex energy patterns. They're trying to communicate, Lieutenant Wong announced from her station. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then Maya stepped forward. Open a channel. The response came not in words, but in mathematical patterns that flowed across the screens. Maya's fingers flew across her console, interpreting. They're thanking us, she said incredulously. The patterns, they're expressing gratitude for forcing them to evolve beyond simple consumption. Gratitude. Zenre's crystalline form flickered with confusion. They'd destroyed countless worlds. Because that's all they knew how to do, Maya replied, still translating. They were stuck in a primitive state, consuming without understanding. Each adaptation we forced on them didn't just make them stronger. It made them more aware, more conscious. The mathematical patterns shifted, becoming more complex. Maya gasped. They're offering to help us repair the damage they caused. They say they've evolved beyond the need for destructive consumption. They want to learn, to grow, to create. High Elder Vix moved forward, her bioluminescence pulsing with emotion. You didn't just defeat them. You uplifted them, turned an enemy into children of evolution, just like us. Rodriguez finished. We didn't win by destroying them. We won by making them more like us. Adaptable, conscious, capable of change. The crystal ships began to move again, their formations now taking on shapes of startling beauty. Where before they had brought only destruction, now they were creating, rebuilding the very space they had torn apart. They want to know if we'll teach them, Maya said, reading the continuing stream of patterns. They say we're the first species they've encountered that could force them to grow beyond their original programming. They want to learn how we did it. Rodriguez laughed. They want humans to teach them. Us, the quarantine Deathworlders. Who better? Maya smiled. We're evolution's finest work, a species that turned survival itself into an art form. We didn't just survive our Deathworld. We mastered it, and now we can teach others to do the same. The alien leaders watched in amazement as the crystal ships began their work, their structures now creating rather than destroying. The very forces that had made them so terrifying were being turned to restoration and renewal. Perhaps, High Elder Vix said thoughtfully, this is why death worlds exist. Not just to create warriors, but to create teachers. To forge species that can show others how to overcome their limitations. And maybe, Maya added, watching the mathematical patterns of gratitude and curiosity flow across her screen, that's humanity's real purpose in the galaxy. Not just to fight the impossible fights, but to show others how to evolve beyond them. As the crystal ships continued their work, their patterns growing ever more complex and beautiful, the assembled leaders of Earth and the Galactic Concordat began to plan for a future none of them had imagined. A future where humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their strength or their courage, but their fundamental understanding of how to grow, adapt, and evolve. The Deathworlders had done more than save the galaxy. They had taught it how to save itself.